Is AI really taking your job? A new report from Anthropic just revealed something surprising, and it's something you need to know. Welcome back to RobTech 2045. Today we're cutting through the hype to uncover the real story behind AI and jobs, because the biggest threat might not be mass layoffs, it might be the jobs that are never created in the first place. Let's dive in. We're all hearing it, right? AI is coming. AI is going to change everything, especially when it comes to our jobs. But what's really happening? Let's push past the headlines and look at what the hard data is actually telling us right now. So let's just get right to it. This is the one question on literally everyone's mind. Is this AI revolution already here? Already costing people their jobs? To find an answer, we're going to dig into a fantastic report from the AI company Anthropic that tries to cut through all that noise. First things first, the researchers themselves are basically saying, hey, let's pump the brakes a little. You know, history is just littered with these big, bold predictions about technology and jobs that, well, they just didn't really happen. Remember all the talk about mass offshoring of US jobs? Didn't quite pan out the way people thought. Predicting the future of work is, it turns out, really, really hard. And here's a big reason why it's so tricky. We tend to think about disruption as this big, sudden event. You know, like the shock of the pandemic, where unemployment just shot through the roof overnight. But this report suggests AI's impact is probably going to feel a lot more like the internet, more of a slow burn, a deep, continuous force that reshapes everything over years. And that makes it way harder to spot in the day-to-day numbers. So if you're trying to track a slow-moving force like this, you can't use the old tools. The researchers knew that, so they had to build a brand new, much more sensitive instrument to see what's really going on under the surface. And they call this new tool observed exposure. This is the key. Instead of just guessing what tasks AI could do in theory, this metric is all about measuring how people are actually using these big language models in their jobs today. It's all about reality, not just potential. So let's break that down. They're basically asking a few simple questions. 1, is a task even possible for an AI to do? 2, are real people actually using it for that task? 3, are they doing it for work? And 4, and this is so important, is the AI completely automating the task or is it just helping out? That difference is absolutely crucial. Okay, so armed with this new tool, this observed exposure metric, the very first thing the researchers did was compare the hype to what's really happening. They looked at the massive potential of AI and stacked it right up against how it's actually being used in the wild. And think about it like this. On one side, you have the theoretical capability. That's the entire universe of everything an AI could possibly do, right? It's massive. But on the other side, you have observed exposure, the tiny, tiny fraction of those things where AI is actually being used in a meaningful way today. And wow, this chart really puts it all into perspective. That huge blue area, that's all of AI's theoretical potential. It touches pretty much every white-collar job you can think of. But that little red area inside, that's the reality. That's the observed exposure. For example, look at computer and math jobs. In theory, AI could cover 94% of their core tasks, but in real world, it's only being used for about 33%. That is a massive gap between what's possible and what's actually happening. Okay, so the impact is smaller than the hype, but it's not zero. The next logical question is who's inside that little red area? Which jobs are the most exposed to AI right now, based on the data? Now, before we name names, let's look at why this matters. The researchers found this really clear connection. The more observed exposure a job has, the weaker its projected growth over the next 10 years, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. For every 10% jump in AI exposure, the projected growth drops by about half a percentage point. It's subtle, but it's a real trend. So here they are. These are the jobs right at the top of that list. Computer programmers are number 1, with about 75% of their core tasks showing real-world AI use. Right behind them, you've got customer service reps and data entry keyers. You can kind of see the pattern here, right? It's jobs that deal with structured information, with coding, with communication. But here's a twist that I found absolutely fascinating. You'd probably guess that the most exposed jobs are lower paying, right? Well, the data says the exact opposite. Get this. On average, workers in that highly exposed group earn 47% more than people with zero exposure. They also tend to be more educated, a bit older, and are more likely to be female. So we have our list of suspects, these highly exposed, higher paying jobs. Now we can finally ask the million-dollar question. Is there any evidence at all that these people are actually losing their jobs because of AI? I mean, this is the whole point, isn't it? All the theory and metrics in the world don't mean a thing if people aren't actually losing their jobs. Since tools like ChatGPT became a big deal, have we seen a spike in unemployment for programmers or financial analysts or customer service reps? And the answer, at least so far, is a surprisingly clear no. Just look at this chart. The top panel shows unemployment for the most exposed workers in red and the least exposed in blue. See how they move together? Even after late 2022 when ChatGPT took off. The bottom panel confirms it. The difference between the two groups is, and I'm quoting the report here, indistinguishable from zero. There's just no wave of AI-driven unemployment showing up in the data. So case closed, everybody can relax? Well, not so fast. Just because people aren't being fired doesn't mean the job market isn't changing. The researchers kept digging, and they found something subtle, a little twist in the tale that could be very, very important. I mean, is that really the whole story? What if we've been looking in the wrong place? What if the first domino to fall isn't laying off the people you already have, but slowing down how you hire new people? Specifically, what's happening to young people trying to get that first foot in the door in these highly exposed fields? And here it is. This is the first faint signal, the first little blip on the radar. This chart is tracking new job starts for young workers aged 22 to 25. The blue line for low exposed jobs, it's holding steady. But look at the red line, the high exposed jobs. Right around the beginning of 2024, it starts to dip. Young people are starting new jobs in these AI exposed fields at a noticeably slower rate. Now, the researchers are super careful about this. They call it a tentative signal. So this is not a five-alarm fire, but it is the very first piece of real statistical evidence suggesting that the way into certain careers might be changing in the age of AI. So in the end, what this all shows us is that the reality of AI's impact is it's a lot more nuanced than the headlines. No, there is no evidence of mass unemployment right now, but there is a very early, very subtle signal that the way into certain careers might be changing. The real question isn't a simple yes or no. It's not if AI will impact jobs, but how. And for that, we just have to keep watching the data. So the real AI revolution isn't about who gets fired, it's about who never gets hired in the first place. Are you seeing entry-level roles dry up in your industry? Let me know in the comments. Hit subscribe and drop a like so you don't miss our next deep dive into future-proofing your career. See you next time.